Hola amigo! Oggi mi vedi sì con un grande sorriso più del solito perché sono riuscito a intervistare il grandissimo Benny Greb. Come sempre l'intervista è tutta sottotitolata in italiano, così la puoi seguire anche se non capisci una parola di inglese, e ti straconsiglio di guardartela tutta perché ci sono veramente delle informazioni che a mio modo di vedere sono oro. Basta, non vado oltre, ti lascio con il fantastico Benny Greb. Benny, wow, what a great honor. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate, and as many drummers here in Italy, but all over the world, yes, I'm a huge fan of your work, and I've got many questions for you. So I like to start talking about your new book, this one here that I got with your signature, Effective
awesome.
Practice for Musicians.
Yes.
I consider this book an amazing tool. It's something that was missing on the market, in my opinion, and basically explains how to practice, how to set goals and achieve goals. And the best thing here is that everything in the book is based on your personal experience, your mistakes, your frustrations, your growth, and years of shedding in your basement. So, can you briefly explain something more about the concept behind this book?
Yes. First of all, thanks for having me. I was very happy for the invitation. And I think you do a great job. So thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yes. I mean, it's based on my own experiences, but it's also based on a couple of knowledge that I then gathered together over the years because of problems that I had. But yes, it came out from me struggling with this thing we call practicing. And throughout the book, I use this as a vehicle to be like, I use myself as the bad example and then find explain a little bit how I found solutions for that and where I found it and how I then implemented. And the feedback so far has been very wonderful of drummers from all over the world saying like, I saw myself in that and I know the exact same problem, and thanks for, so to speak, like gripping that and giving me tools for that. And I couldn't be happier with the response so far. I would have wished that I would have had this book when I was starting out, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. In the first part of the book, there's a sentence that really impressed me a lot, and it's something like every student has totally different goals, but the path to achieve them is the same for everyone. So it means that this book is not designed for professional players only, but also for hobby players or musicians in general, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I've gotten a lot of feedback actually from also people from other fields like pilots or like that say like when I have an important exam or I want to make progress or analyze where I stand right now, I just follow those steps and it kind of works as well. So I think it's so to your statement, it's not limited to a certain instrument, it's not limited to a certain level of playing. So whether you're professional or just starting out, it also is not limited to a certain style of music and it's not even limited to music. It's actually, of course, all the examples are very music based. I really wanted it to be practical. So it's very clear and very kind of, okay, this is how you're practicing, how you practice kind of stuff. But the principles are basically the principles we need to make our brain learn something, make our hands do something, and whatever that is, whatever skill that is, or new knowledge that is, it works. It's a kind of programming language and a planning method how you can get stuff done, and that's great for hobbyists and it's great for professional musicians.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of psychology, not only just practicing how to practice, how to do things, but a lot of mindset that reflects your personality. Are you considering to create an Italian version of the book?
It's I totally understand. I get a lot of messages that I should do it in in Russian, in Spanish, in all kinds of but of course that's it's also a question of budget and which to do
Yeah,
first.
and request,
but
obviously.
I'm totally up for thinking about that, but definitely not this year. It is something that I have to develop. First of all, there might be a German version because that's just easier for me, and because I wrote it in English really, and then a couple of German people said like, "What the heck?" Like,
But it's easy. It's really easy to read. At least for me, it's easy to understand. It's not a difficult use of English. I mean, I'm not very good at English, but I sometimes it's difficult for me reading books. But this is really, really easy. And
first of all, your English is great. Don't put yourself under that.
Thank you.
But yes, it's not a science book. It's not a theoretical thing. I use science and I use a lot of stuff in there, but it should be a manual. It should be a guidebook for like, okay, I can diagnose myself very quickly. I can set up a system and I can basically put all the stuff I'm dealing with into this Mincer machine and then which is the book stuff, the system, and then it a custom-made practice plan and really an approach how to do that comes out of it. That was the goal.
Yeah, it's really brilliant. And reading the book, I can really feel your evolution as a musician, and I would say as a man as well, because it's absolutely clear that during all these years you have worked, or this is my opinion, on yourself, modeling a specific approach and a specific mindset, not only about the musical side, but about life in general. Now, you are one of the most influential drummers in the world, and we all know your skills and who you are. But today, at that level of your career, tell me something about you. How do you practice now? How do you fine-tune yourself? And where do you get that level of inspiration?
Oh, it's first of all, thanks. You're very generous.
It's the truth.
I don't want to be misunderstood when I say when I say like, oh, I find myself inspiring. That's not what I mean. But what I talk about a lot in the book is this thing of like using recordings a lot and doing like these recordings before and after practicing. And I think everyone knows this feeling when you listen to a recording of yours, you think like, there are these certain points where it's like, maybe you like something about it. But there are also things like, there's also always stuff that, I think this could be better, or, I want to, and I still have that, and I use that constantly. So I have things where I think like, that's what I want to focus on next, and this would, another way to constantly, to kind of branch out and to constantly develop, is of course different styles of music that maybe were untouched before, or even different instruments sometimes, I use the same principle in terms of producing and songwriting, but I don't want to sound like, oh, I'm now done with the drums and now I go to other areas. It's not that at all. I have enough stuff with the drums where I think like, okay, I have to get back to this, or I'm still at this, I still have in my practice book, in my little journal, I have like, okay, Tony Williams YouTube video, minute 3.2 till 3.7, and like this lick, or like something like that. So it's pretty much the same like with everyone. I think we're all in the same boat. Yeah, so I still have things that some would regard beginner stuff, like to get a better sound in a double stroke roll, or to get a nicer feel, of a more effortless feel in a double stroke roll. Because I think the further the further you develop, the more you will. It's not about what you play. It's more about like that you can play it easier, that you can make it sound better, that you can make it maybe more graceful or maybe connected better with other things. So sometimes it's also about revisiting things and polishing stuff and maybe going deeper. That's why also the journal stuff is so great, because I know in the last more than 20 years what I practiced on what day in what tempo and how I did with a smiley or a skull or like however I felt that way, or a smiley with like a couple of sweat, like if I did it but it was hard, like, so you sometimes also have to go back to the basics constantly.
So you still practice in the same way you describe in the book with the 3 months schedule. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. And it has been, I mean, the only difference when you asked before about like amateurs and professionals, like for amateurs, it's a thing, or for hobbyists, it's a thing of like, they can just make more progress and have fun and feel more badass about it and be like, oh, great. That's cool. For professionals, it's actually a lifesaver sometimes, because or a necessity actually, because when I was asked to play with the Buddy Rich Big Band, for example, I couldn't have done it without this. I had 2 months. So I cut the system down for the 2 months. There's a chapter in the book called Compartmentalize the 3 months. And that's what I did. I first got an overview of like, okay, I try to get an overview. I try to poke holes into what I know and try to identify what are the toughest bits, what are the ones that maybe I think I can do already, or maybe are not as hard as other ones. And then the second part is like, okay, I'm gonna drill down and really work on the stuff that I have to work on and make progress on those. And then the third part is maybe the last couple of weeks is to put it together, because we sometimes forget that the putting together is also a thing we have to practice, especially if you have like single parts, like a lick here, and then you have to put it into song form, and all of a sudden you realize, oh shit, my CPU is still like on full blast. I have to get used to it. I have to get in flow. I have to relax. And it really helped me, because it was challenging, and I was happy that I had this available. And after the show, when I went out on the side and the whole band came and I shook hands and stuff, and I thought like, oh my God, like a lot has happened since I started with this stuff, and with the Chili Peppers groove in the basement of this story, and
it's amazing thinking about you playing and how to learn the Red Hot Chili Peppers songs. It's amazing. Thinking about you playing Under the Bridge. I don't know.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was a bloodbath. But that, I mean, that's a good example, because it showed me that not the groove is the problem, or not the equipment is the problem. I mean, it sometimes can be, but my way of approaching practicing was the problem.
There's an old video on your YouTube channel, you playing just grooves, no? And you used just a couple of condenser microphones, but the sound is amazing. You hear everything. You don't need 16 channels. You don't need a Neumann in front of your kit. You just need the right equipment. But he has a very incredible groove, because he knows how to play. He has dynamics. And this is the lesson I've learned many years ago from you. Benny, at a certain point of your career, you made this probably this natural transition to the educational side. You are now one of the most demanded teachers around. But before starting your career as a clinician, did you train yourself to improve that area in the same way you did behind the drums? I mean, how you became so good at teaching, so good at creating value for people. Is it a natural attitude, or have you practiced this in some way, in the same way you practice the drums?
Yeah, I would wish, I would love to say, but it wouldn't be honest. I would love to say like, yeah, I was just talented, just good at this. Sorry, I'm blessed with this. But the truth is that I was all over the place in the beginning. I didn't really have a system. I was very ego-centered with my first kind of students. But I started very, very early. So I started to teach when I was like 16, 17, and then I already had like a couple of students. Those poor guys. I'm very sorry, but so I mean, I tried to show them what I valued and stuff, but it wasn't really. And also, I back then didn't have like amazing lessons myself. I later learned that to be a good teacher, you basically want to be a helper. You don't want to be a judge, which is normally kind of the approach of teachers, to be like, you play me something, and then I tell you what is not good about it, and then I tell you what you should do. And then these teachers usually ask themselves like why the students are not motivated, because they had no say in what should be done. They are not asked like what they want, how they like it, and I think teachers are most effective, and that's what I had to learn as well, when they're helpers. A lot of teachers think when the student comes to them in the beginning, especially when they're beginners, they have to listen a lot first, because the teacher knows a lot and they don't, so they have to listen a lot. I think the opposite is the case. I think when a student comes and meets a new teacher, the teacher has to listen a lot first, and to really diagnose and see like, okay, what do we have here? What is actually needed here? I don't want to prescribe something that we don't need. It would be the equivalent of a doctor, and you say like, I have this thing here, and it's like, what? It's for the leg? And he's like, yeah, it always works. And it's like, there's a saying in medicine that I also use in the book, which is the proper diagnose is half the cure. So first you have to see like, okay, what is needed, and then it's really effective. If you do something out of tradition, or because tradition, which is we always done it this way, it always worked, I do this with all my students, like all these kind of things, usually is a little bit weaker also in motivation than this is in line with what you want, this is the solution to your problem. And I actually also began to record clinics mainly, but also sometimes lessons that I gave, and then analyzed myself, like I did with that practice session in the book, in the first one that I described, and really took pen and paper and said like, okay, what's good about this? What's not good about this? And it always starts with taking full responsibility and saying, I'm to blame, but that also means that I can change it. I can do something about it. So I don't want to be in this like, oh, but there's nothing I can do. I need a different bass drum pedal, then everything will be fine. But instead say like, okay, how can I make this better? How can I do the best I can with what I have right now? And to do that in teaching as well. And then over the years, it just became more and more of a thing, and something that I enjoy very, very much.
In your educational stuff, in particular the DVD, I also have the DVD here, because this is the best DVD about the groove in the world, guys. Buy this DVD, this one and the Steve Jordan's DVD, the best in the world. So in particular, this DVD is made with real high standards, not only for the content, That is the first thing for sure when you put something on the market. But in the way you treat the video, just like a movie, I'm impressed. Really
Thank you.
high quality, much better than the average. Why this decision? Why this approach? I get the impression that this is exactly the way you treat every aspect of your life. No,
I try to.
something better, something wow.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to. I mean, of course, I have. I owe a lot to the guys I was working with back then. They, of course, did a great job. But the approach is always, everyone, it's basically a decision. Everyone can do it. It's not a certain gift or a certain special like sauce. It's if you plan anything. Let's say it's a dinner with your girlfriend, or it's writing a song, or going with your kid to the playground, whatever it is. You have a certain picture in your mind, and you say like, okay, I'm gonna do this and blah. And sometimes maybe it's, oh yeah, I know what will happen and how it will be, and this is kind of the given path. And then if you stop for a second and say like, how could this be even better? What else could I do there? How could I do that differently and better? What would make this more? And for me, it's sometimes allowing myself to say like, what would be outrageous here? What would maybe be silly, or like what would be crazy? Like if you pick up your girlfriend from the airport, yeah, why not take like 100 balloons at home and just like try it out. Like it's fun, and I think this spices up daily life, daily activities, but it also, especially for projects, anything that lasts for a long time. Like for example, this DVD is now a couple years old. The content is timeless, and it's now available online and on my DVD, on my on my website as a downloadable thing. I still want to be proud of it like 10 years later, 20 years later. So that's how I try to approach all the stuff that I bring out, because the things that I bring out usually also take a long time. The book took me 7 years to write. The DVD as well, The Language of Drumming as well. It's always a long, the end of a long journey and process. So I want to make it worthwhile. It's not something that I just like shoot out and then it's like so yeah, I wanted to be the best I could do.
Based on your experience, what's the biggest challenge for students nowadays, especially younger players? The ability of staying focused on their goals, distraction from the internet, and all the knowledge out there, lack of specific direction to follow. What's your opinion? And what do you think about the general level of the drumming community today?
I think the level is amazing. First of all, I think it's incredible. I constantly fool around on social media and see people and think like, oh my goodness, look at that guy. Oh my God, he's only 17, or like, oh God. So yeah, I mean the level is amazing, without a doubt. And in terms of, I don't think that there is one thing that I can see with people across the board what the problem is. But that's why I think the most bulletproof way to look at it is to put the diagnosis and the analyzing and to see where you stand first, and then find solutions for that. So you can really approach things individually. Because I had students in the past that needed a little kick in the butt, where it's like, you know what, raise your standards. You can do better than this. The next student came in and they were they were judging themselves incredibly hard. And what they needed was like, hey man, relax. This is not a life or death kind of thing, okay? You're not a heart surgeon. It's only music. Relax. No one will die when your singer stroke is not accurate now. Have fun with this. So there is no right or wrong. It really depends where you're coming from. And to have a balance there is incredibly important, because some people need to work really on their technique. That's the one thing that holds them back. And other people are technically incredible, and the time and the sound is horrible. Or other people only worked on independence, but they never really played a lot to songs or song forms, or don't know any styles. So I would just see what are the things that make up music, and what are the parameters that are at play, and those that are important to me, and then evaluate myself where I think, am I strong in this? Am I a little weaker in this? And then work on the weaker parts. And then it's about focus, right? Then it's about staying the course.
Yeah.
Because once you made that assessment, then don't fool around again and be like, oh, but I really want to practice independence. It's like, no, we figured out your independence is at a 9 and your time is at a 2. So it's time exercises now, and then your independent stuff will sound way better. That's the beauty of it, that all these elements are interactive, right? From my own experience, again, to use myself as a bad example, when I started the system, when I studied music, I was a huge fan of, and I still am, but back then I was obsessed, of Terry Bozzio, and Marco Miniman was just coming up at the time, and like did clinics definitely in Germany, but then was kind of the first German guy to really play internationally, and he was a monster, and he still is, of course, and he came to the school where I was studying, and I was just mind blown. So I was totally into independence, and I had my 5 pedals and my gong drum and everything. You know, like, and I tried to play 7 here and 15 with my earlobe, and you know, and that gave me a lot of joy, and it was a great. I had a great drive towards that, so I really put a lot of power in that and made a lot of progress there. And then I reached the point where I realized I can be very proud of myself, because when I play, and I got this, people said this, you sound like 15 drummers at the same time. But the problem was I sounded like 15 bad drummers at the same time. And that was because the independence was kind of there, but the time wasn't that good, and the accuracy wasn't there, and the sound was horrible. And so then I realized, okay, I have to create some balance. So, and I think I might have been an extreme example there, but I think everyone has these things where it's like, okay, I focused on this, and now maybe I have to balance it out a little bit to make myself a more rounded musician. And then usually when you are more rounded, everything kind of goes rounder. Everything works more intertwined because it's not separate stuff.
Regarding the business side of your work, I've noticed that you produce and sell a lot of content. And when I look at your website, I immediately recognize the brand, Benny Greb, the brand, not just the official website of a musician. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that means drum camps, books, CDs, DVDs, merchandise, the app, Gap Click. Mm-hmm. So you sell gear, everything, all amazing stuff made with the highest quality standards, covering a various range of prices. The point is, in my humble opinion, you are one of the best examples for everyone, especially in that time, for every musician, about the meaning of taking care of your own business. Do you manage directly every aspect? For example, I remember when I bought the DVD, same thing, the book. You sold it on your official website only.
Yeah.
So I don't want to ask you this. It's not about the money. Doesn't matter. I just ask you this to know if it's about the freedom of managing your content and eventually spread your work with your fan base and your community without any limitation, without filters, just you and them. Is this your approach?
I grew up, I wanted to become the next Steve Gadd, right? I'm a huge Steve Gadd fan, and of course, no one can ever come close to what he does. But I thought like that would be great because I love all kinds of music, really. And I wanted to become, I do studio sessions, play in bands, this and that. And my teachers back then, like end of the 80s, like 90s, the paradigm was, before the internet, that is, of course, the paradigm was forget about your solo stuff, right? That will not work. Become a sideman and play with artists and tour with them and be a sideman. And for me, that was like, all right, I do my solo stuff on the side, if, when I have time and I have fun and stuff, because I was always writing music and was always teaching. But then that will be my job, though, the sideman stuff. And when I moved to Hamburg and like the record industry went down a little bit, or when I came to Hamburg, they moved to Berlin, maybe because I went to Hamburg, I don't know, but they left. And I tried around with bands, and I got a couple of record deals with bands, and I was able to a little bit sniff in that world. And it was always so much about other stuff than the thing itself, the music. I really wanted to talk and think and work about the music and work with the fans, and I didn't want to do a couple of other things that were then always important. And I was very bored and disappointed by a lot of politics and unfairness of like, but because first this, and like it was just a lot of weird things happened. But then the weirdest thing happened, which was I did a weird album with a good friend of mine in his basement, and I sang a cappella a couple of songs and then played drums to it. That was this solo kind of thing where everyone said like, yeah, you can forget about that. You should like work with other artists and stuff. But I really loved that. And then all of a sudden that was kind of successful. It wasn't a pop chart hit, of course, but it was not nothing. And it was enough for me to be, and everyone else to be pretty surprised. And I was like, so does that mean I can actually do my stuff? I can do my own stuff? And then something else happened where on my website, I just posted like this video of like Benny Greb Grooves, I think it's called. It's still on the internet, and it's not on my channel. It's somewhere else. And I posted it on my website. And then there was the Montreal Drum Festival, I think, and someone stole it and then wrote me a message. Someone else wrote me a message and said like, hey, there is this website called it was YouTube, and I didn't know it. I went there and I was like, oh wow, there are a couple of hundreds of thousands views back when it was still a lot. And I began to understand that although this is nerdy and special interest kind of stuff, if I now could reach worldwide drummers that are as weird as I am, and like the weird things and the nerdy things that I do, maybe I don't have to cater to this record label boss that says like, oh, but there's no female singer on the track. Like maybe I can just do my thing and instead of explaining someone and trying to raise money for something, maybe I do things low budget and just explain it to my fans and do it the best I can and try to be smart about it and not even wait for any help, but do it myself. And it wasn't a quick thing. It took decades, to be quite honest. But I'm very grateful where I am right now. And but I'm super grateful for the fans that make it possible, because there is no one in between. It's me doing my stuff,
Yeah.
and then people either liking it and appreciating it or not.
In
And if
fact,
they
you
don't,
still, for example, you still live in Germany. You don't live
Yes.
in Los Angeles, or you work from your house. It's a totally different, and in my opinion, it's really inspirational for new generation, because you can really get in touch with many people around the world, and you are one of the best examples in my opinion. You, Giorgio Meyer, and other guys. For example, Adam Deitch from Let Us, they
Adam is
manage
amazing.
all their amazing drummer. They manage all their, they have a management. But I'm really interested in this aspect, because it can be, I can call this freedom for your music,
Yeah.
for your the concept of having a community, a strong community, and that's really really interesting.
Yeah,
Benny,
it is
have the
freedom. It's also freedom to work very hard, though.
yeah.
So, but look, it's a privilege. I really I'm so grateful for that my fans allow me to do this, but that's also the thing why I just can't half-ass anything. I cannot bring out a book or a DVD or something where I think like, yeah, because I know that I owe it. I know I owe it to people. They expect a certain standard now, and I will not fall below that. And
Absolutely.
it's also more fun that way, to be quite honest.
Benny, I have a last question for you. I asked this to all my guests. For you, it's easy today, because let's say tomorrow you're going to record the most important album of your career,
Yeah.
with a bunch of amazing musicians, artists, the best in the world, unlimited budget. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a dream. You are in the studio. The producer is Quincy Jones. Okay, but Quincy says, Benny, you can use just one snare drum for the session, 15 tracks,
Yeah.
all different vibes, but one snare drum. What do you choose for Quincy? I know it's easy for you, but I'm going to ask you anyway. When I asked this to Simon Phillips, he went crazy.
Yeah. Damn. What did he say?
He said, just one snare drum? No. Or I have to retune my drums? No, you can use the same drum kit, but change the snare drum. Oh man, but I have many snare drums. I always change my snare drum. Then at the end, he said the new snare drum from Tom at his 40th anniversary, something like this. But it was in a big crisis in that moment. So you have your signature snare, but tell me, is the right snare to play 15 different songs with different vibes?
Yes, I mean, it maybe sounds weird, and this is the one thing that is maybe a little bit weird about. Of course, I developed this snare drum with Sonar, and I'm very proud of it, and people like it, and blah. But it is the snare drum I've been using for the last 15 years on everything. If I'm in the studio, and even if they have like vintage drums there and stuff, when they ask me a certain sound, of course I can shuffle through other snare drums if I want to, but if I should get it reliably and super fast, I'll do it with my snare drum, because I know I can turn here 2 times. I disengage the dampener, I do that, and I know exactly like which things to do to get to a certain sound super fast. And my snares also maybe a little bit particular, because it was designed to be able to do different sounds very quickly. So it's not one of those snares who's like, oh, it has a certain kind of sound in a certain way. It certainly does, but it's a very, very flexible thing, and that's what I love about it. And I know my way around it. So yeah, it's easy.
Benny, thanks again for your time.
Thank you so much.
I really hope to meet you here in Italy. It would be amazing to be part of one of your drum camps. I've never been there in the past, but next time I'll be one of your students for sure. So thanks for your great inspiration. I really, really admire what you're giving to
thank
all
you
the
so
drumming
much.
community. So good luck for everything.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me as a guest and being so generous. And you're always welcome at any of my camps or anywhere. We will drink nice wine together. And I can't wait to meet you.
Thank you, Benny. Thank you very much.
Te l'avevo detto di guardarla fino alla fine, come vedi è stata un'intervista pazzesca. Benny ha toccato argomenti a 360 gradi, ben oltre solamente la batteria, quindi ti consiglio semmai di farla vedere anche ai tuoi amici, girali il link, ma non per far fare la visualizzazione a me, perché qua ci sono delle informazioni che sono oro. Ma se ti sei goduto questa intervista tutta tradotta e sottotitolata in italiano, sappi che anche grazie al super lavoro di alcuni amici che fanno parte della community di Suonare la Batteria, ragazzi e ragazze appassionati che conoscono l'inglese, che mi danno una mano a tradurre le interviste agli artisti internazionali, li voglio citare uno per uno perché veramente si meritano un applauso. Gabriele, Annalisa, Marco, Roberto, Mattia, Leonardo e Pietro a questo giro. Ce ne sono tanti altri coinvolti che mi stanno aiutando a tradurre altri artisti, grandi nomi che ho già intervistato, che arriveranno prossimamente. Quindi sono gasato, ci sono un sacco di cose belle in arrivo. Se non vuoi perderti neanche un video, iscriviti al canale. Grazie se sei rimasto con me fino adesso e alla prossima. Buona musica!